When you hear the name Machiavelli, your mind probably jumps straight to, political scheming, backroom deals, and the ruthless pursuit of power, right? But if we look closely at a foundational theme that most readers literally completely skip over, we're going to find that his true core isn't really about political maneuvering at all. It's about something far more grounded and, frankly, far more dangerous. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the absolutely critical importance of arms, a concept that sits at the very heart of his worldview.
While people get so distracted by the masks of political plotting and psychological tactics, they miss his primary focus entirely. It's kind of crazy, but the absolute bedrock of his political thought, the theme he cared about the most, is the military, the power of arms. You simply cannot understand his political philosophy without understanding his military philosophy. They are exactly one and the same.
Section 1. The Overlooked Foundation. The inseparable bond between laws and arms.
So in his work, Machiavelli lays out a premise that is just as blunt as it is foundational. He flat out states that the principal foundations of absolutely all states are just two things: good laws and good arms. That's it. Not immense wealth, not clever alliances, but laws and military might. And they're completely codependent. You literally cannot have good laws where there are no good arms. Basically, security is the absolute prerequisite for justice. But where you have good arms, good laws must naturally follow. This dynamic is so central to everything he believes that he declares he must, above all else, speak of arms.
Section 2. The mercenary trap. The absolute disaster of outsourcing your defense.
Now, back in this era, leaders relied heavily on hired help to fight their battles. But Machiavelli noted an inescapable catch-22 with mercenary captains. Think about the logic here for a second. If you hire a mercenary captain who is highly capable and just excellent at war, well, they will inevitably aspire to their own greatness. They're going to either oppress you, the person who actually hired them, or they'll oppress others totally against your intentions. But what if you hire an incapable captain? Well, they just ruin you in the ordinary way by losing the battle. It is literally a trap with zero positive outcomes. And he goes on to assign a devastating list of traits to these hired soldiers. He says they're disunited, ambitious, completely undisciplined, unfaithful. They act incredibly brave when they're just hanging out among their friends, but the absolute second they face your actual enemies, total cowards. They have absolutely zero skin in the game, so when the pressure is actually on, their true toxic nature is fully revealed.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this reliance on hired soldiers isn't just some theoretical problem. It had real, absolutely devastating historical consequences. Machiavelli points out that Italy relied on these hired guns for a century and a half. That is 150 years of outsourced defense. And his direct diagnosis? He says this is the exact reason for Italy's immense humiliation at the hands of the French, the Spanish, and the Swiss. 150 years of relying on mercenaries literally paved the way for foreign domination.
Section 3. The Prince's Singular Focus. Preparing for war during times of peace.
To actually solve this disastrous problem of outsourced security, Machiavelli argues that a leader has to rely entirely on his own arms. War cannot be a part-time job or something you just delegate to someone else. A prince should have no other object, no other thought, and no other art but war. He insists that a true leader must never, ever lift his mind from the exercise of war, even, and honestly, perhaps especially during times of peace. Peace, in his eyes, is really just the time to prepare for the inevitable conflicts that are bound to come.
So, what does this actually look like in peacetime? Well, Machiavelli isn't just saying you should sit around polishing swords all day. He provides a highly active blueprint. Step 1 is physical, hunting. And this isn't for leisure. It's a rigorous exercise designed to learn the terrain, truly understand the geography, and harden the body. Then step 2 is intellectual, reading histories. A leader has got to constantly study the past to examine the specific actions of excellent men. You have to understand exactly why they won and why they lost. It's a total, all-encompassing commitment of both the body and the mind.
Section 4. An armed free people. Moving from theory to practical reality.
You see, this intense focus on arms wasn't just some armchair philosophy from Machiavelli. He actually walked the walk. Before 1506, Florence, just like the rest of Italy, relied heavily on those incredibly dangerous mercenaries we talked about. But in that year, Machiavelli takes real action. He personally organizes a Florentine citizen militia. He goes out and creates the ultimate alternative to mercenaries, making it the most practical project of his entire political life. He fundamentally reorganized his city's entire military structure.
And this practical project deeply informed his later writings, specifically the Discourses, which rests on one massive foundational conviction. An armed people is a free people. Just let that sink in for a second. True civic freedom, true independence from tyranny and foreign rule, relies entirely on a citizenry's ability and willingness to defend itself. Without your own arms, you simply cannot have your own freedom.
To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a thought that takes Machiavelli's insights far beyond the battlefields of 16th century Italy. Consider this 500-year-old warning about the illusion of outsourced safety. Machiavelli showed us that relying on others for your most foundational security inevitably leads to ruin. So take a look at your own life, your own business, or your own community. Ask yourself, what essential responsibilities are you dangerously outsourcing today? Where are you relying on the modern equivalent of a mercenary, just hoping they're going to care as much about your success and security as you do? It's a highly provocative question, and one that Machiavelli would say you absolutely cannot afford to ignore.